Thank you for joining our October 2020 webinar, which is going to be basically a deep dive into communicating with your artists at multiple different points throughout your application. So some general best practices for communication is to think about all of the first points of contact you're going to come into communication with a new artist. So that might be your website, and it will also be your ZAPP site. I usually think of those two as being like the two places that artists are going to meet your event first. If you have a large social media following, a large social media presence of any type, you may also find that you're getting new artists to your social media pages. So it's important that both your website, your ZAPP information pages, and your social media is all on the same page when it comes to essentially what content you're producing or what communications you're putting out. So that would just mean that you want to make sure that you have, for example, if you're updating your event for 2021, you also want to be updating your ZAPPlication at the same time so that artists who are looking on ZAPP for new information can find the same or similar information that they would find on your website. The other thing with your website that I just want to point out real fast is I know a lot of websites are very patron focused. They're very patron facing. So just like a quick link, a section of your menu that has a place for artists or vendors to easily find the information that they need. If you don't have that already, I would consider adding it because again, that's one of your first points of contact with a new artist or vendor of any type. For ZAPP, when you're looking at your first point of communication, you'll want to make sure all of your information is within the event information section because that's going to be basically your landing page on ZAPPlication. You might want to consider, including all sorts of information from FAQs to rules and regulations, communication timelines, application periods, any information that you think an artist would want to know that they want to apply to your event. We recommend filling out every single one of these boxes. I know there are a couple events that sometimes put all of their information within general information. That's great, but in our mobile enhancement, which launched about a year ago now, what we have is we have these buttons and they auto-populate based off of what text boxes are filled out, allowing artists to easily jump between information. So you've got booth information, like scroll back up, get to jury details. So jury details is living on this page as a full section now. It used to be a pop-up, it's now a full section. And that is all information that you'll want to include. I do want to give like a quick shout out to the jury details page because I know it's shifted a little bit this year. Given the impact of COVID on, everyone involved, we have new required questions on this page that are going to change based off of whether or not you select that your event is juried or not. And there will be required questions no matter which one you choose. And those are going to be average number of applications, average number of artists who are no longer, who are bypassing your selection process of some sort, and how are those returning artists selected. The reason we're so keen to have jury details be required right now is because there are a large number of events that are rolling over. And so this is a vital piece of information that artists are going to want to know before they apply to your event, particularly new artists. So if you are filling in a few spaces, they'll really want to know that information. If you're hosting your jury as normal, then that's also really good to fill out so that they feel confident that they'll have an equal shot. One of the things that we think is a really cool thing to include when you're talking about this initial point of contact with your artists is like an FAQ section. I see it on a couple events, and it's just really useful if you have something specific within your application that you might want to consider. So that might be refund policies and dates. Those should be included no matter whether or not you're doing a FAQ section or not. COVID-19 policies are probably going to be a pretty strong FAQ in 2021. Waitlist policies, I have one for an emerging artist right here, and possible things like sales taxes. The other thing you can consider when you're looking at this, because this is mainly this is both an informational piece and a promotional piece for your show. So it's informational in the sense that all artists are using the information you posted on ZAPP on your event information page, which is the public page. They're going to use that to make their decision about whether or not they're going to apply to your event. But it's also promotional because you want them to feel like your event is a really good opportunity. So there's a mixture between pure transparency and being very straightforward with what your policies and rules and regulations are. And then there are promotional pieces. So one of the things you might want to consider here is including language for marketing specifically to artists. So that would be things like artist testimonials, attendance, and artist perks. I would include those in your event summary if you can. If not, I would include them at the beginning of your general information section so that artists can see that information pretty quick off the bat. So things that would not be marketing to artists are going to be things like music information, family and friends information, like things you would market to your patrons aren't probably going to equal the same for your artists. And so when you're looking at doing your application on ZAPP, and when you are creating your artist section on your website, you'll want that information to all be geared towards artists themselves rather than to patrons. And so that's kind of how to handle like your first point of contact with brand new vendors. For returning artists, one of the things that I would recommend in terms of communication would be a communication schedule. So we have like one just for like while your artists have actually applied, but you might also want to consider making one for yourself outside of ZAPP that includes maybe a call to artists, a timeline for when you're going to do your call to artists, a timeline for acknowledgement submission of the jury process, your jury results, instructions for purchasing a booth, instructions for confirming attendance, event information reminders, and like a thank you. And you could also consider doing things throughout the year, kind of like quarterly check-ins or monthly check-ins, where you can offer kind of like a newsletter style email to your artists just to keep them involved in your event as time goes on. So for ZAPP, for an example, when we talk about our communication schedule for you guys, we send quarterly newsletters. So we send 4 newsletters a year. We email you guys webinar updates every single month so that there's always a chance to connect with us in this format every single month. And we also send check-ins for unpublished events. So if you don't publish your event and your application open date is passed or will be passing soon, we'll send you a check-in to ask if you're ready to publish your event. So you can kind of do the same thing when you're looking to create a communication schedule for your artists to encourage previous year's artists to apply, and then also to keep in touch with all the artists who are interested in your event throughout your year. And then for some general tips when it comes to emails in general in ZAPP, one of the things we always recommend is drafting communications outside of ZAPP and then copy and pasting into our template. That's just because ZAPP does not register typing in a text box as activity on the site. So the last thing we want is for you guys to get timed out and lose the work that you've done. So when you're drafting communications, you might draft that in Microsoft Word, in Google Docs, and then copy and paste into ZAPP so you can have all the tracking features and you can have all of your communication information in one place. But you'll have additional copy outside of ZAPP. While you can always review communications sent in ZAPP, we don't have like a comprehensive list where you can pull the actual data of each communication sent, like all the text from each communication sent. But if you keep a record outside of that, then you can have that list as well to kind of, work really well with what you have in ZAPP. The other thing is always, always, always include your event name in your subject line. Sometimes I see emails go out through ZAPP where they do not include the event name in the subject line. And for artists, a lot of times what we'll hear is that they're getting a lot of emails from events as time goes on. And they're, buried in their inboxes just like everybody else, just like the rest of us. And so you just want to make sure that your event name is always present in every subject line, so that if I was an artist, I could scan my, inbox, whether that's Gmail, Microsoft Outlook, all of those things, and I could see, oh, that's the event, like I've been waiting on results for that event, or I've been waiting for an update from that event. Including your name in the subject line will probably help you get additional opens, and then it will also just ensure that artists are able to find your emails a little bit better. The other thing is to always include contact information in every email you send. Even though you're changing the reply to address, I would also include it within the email itself. You can merge the contact information from your event information page by checking this box right here. That's a really easy, really useful thing to just quickly add all of that information into your email so that artists can reach out to you with any questions. And then just always double check for spelling and grammar. Even when you're in a rush, it's a good thing to double check for that. I would say especially when you're in a rush, it's a good thing to double check for that. Because this year in particular, there's going to be a lot of additional workflows in place we have new features like invite-only events. We have lots of artists rolling over. So just double checking your emails for clarity and additional context is good. So this next section of the webinar that I'm going to go into is going to be specific emails you can send and information to include in each one. So the email, one of the first emails that you'll probably send is a call to your artists when your application launches. So I would wait to send this until your application is actually published on ZAPP and the application open date has passed. If you did not know, you can indeed publish your event on ZAPP before your application opens. And in fact, I recommend doing that so that artists have a chance to review your event information. It's just like the most clarity they could possibly have to have the entire event information there. And then you are very confident as well that once your application opens, they'll be able to apply. It's just the calmest and easiest way to do it, to put it up first, rather than put it up on the day. That you can, of course, put it up on the day or delay your application open if that is what's needed. I know a lot of events are delaying application open dates until they feel a little bit more confident about spring 2021. So if you're in that case, you definitely should wait until you have all of the information that you need. So once you are ready to send your application open notification, what you can do is if you're an event that's been on ZAPP multiple years, you can pull from your archived events and you can email artists on that archived event and let them know that your application is open. You'll probably want to include application deadlines within this email, as well as any promotions such as an early bird, your COVID regulations and refund policies. Every time I believe that you can get that out to your artists, the better, essentially, because everybody's looking for that information. Everybody's very uncertain as regulations are just so different across our country. And so if you can include that information early, then artists will feel a little bit more confident applying. They'll feel like they have a really good grasp of where your event is at. And that's really ideal, because even if your event is canceled, which knock on wood, no more, we're kind of past our main cancellation process. But if it does cancel, then you know that you and your artist have been on the same page the whole time. If you're including your COVID policies in all of your emails that you're sending, or any relevant emails that you're sending, as well as on your event information page. And the fourth thing you may want to include in the call to artists is artist testimonials from the previous year. So anything positive an artist has said in the previous year or the previous couple of years, you should definitely include that. I wouldn't go too far back time-wise. I wouldn't go, 10 years ago, an artist said this about my event, just because you want that information to be relevant for artists who are applying. But I would definitely consider including some artist testimonials, statistics from your last event, or statistics from your most recent event, or general information. So kind of whatever is going to be the best sell for your event, whether that is awards, attendance, general artist sales, or artist testimonials, I would include that in your call to artists email that you're going to send out to all of your archived events. I would also send that call to artist email to everybody within the past events. Unless, if you have people that you move to other, for example, because they are no longer invited to your event for other reasons, then maybe don't send it to them. But I would just in general send the call to artists to as many people as you have within your base, because those are people who have already indicate interest in your event in some way, shape, or form. The next email you'll probably be looking at sending is a type of pre-jury email. There are a couple of different pre-jury emails you might be sending, one of which could be something along the lines of, we received your application, here's when we plan to host our jury, here's when we plan to give notification. That type of information can just help artists who are wondering about your event notification process. So even if you're including all of those details on your event information page, they may skim over it. They may not remember to look back on it as time goes on, particularly if they apply early on your application cycle. So you may want to send a pre-jury email that just kind of includes, hey, we received your application, we're processing it, and we plan to email you notification again at this time, so on a certain date. And also, when you're looking at emailing notification, also include the way that you're going to notify artists. So that is most likely going to be through email, but if you also do it through like mail or via phone calls, then you would also want to include that. You can email individual artists. So say you are still pre-jury, your application is still open, but you have an artist who needs to edit their application in some way, shape, or form. What you can do for that is you're going to want to move them to the incomplete status. So I just clicked on received, and then I'll click on incomplete, click update. And then right from this page, you'll see that we have a field right here for the email address. And so I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to be taken directly to communicating with that specific artist. I still have the option to merge all of this data. I can, I have exactly the same information that I had before. I have the same templates I have before. And then I can email them and tell them why they need to edit their application and how to resubmit it. So when it comes to editing applications, we have two different places where you can put artists. One is going to be the incomplete status. That is for any artist who needs to edit their application before your application deadline. If they finish editing their application before your application deadline, they'll be able to resubmit it on their own. They'll move automatically back to received. If it's after your application deadline and you want them to edit their application, change out images, change out answers, anything like that, you can move them to exception. They'll have the ability to edit their application, but they cannot resubmit it. So they will need to email you and let you know that they're done editing their application, at which point you will be able to review their application, make sure all of the edits are as you requested, and then you can move them back to received. Or if you're doing this some other point within your application cycle, you can move them back into whatever status is most adequate. When communicating to artists who need to edit their applications in some way, shape, or form, you will want to specify what needs to be edited. So I would recommend as soon as you move an artist to incomplete or exception, you automatically email them and let them know that they're in incomplete or exception and let them know what they need to change. Include the date by which edits need to be made. Always merge your contact information. And I would also include ZAPP's contact information for artists on these emails as well, because if they have technical difficulties, say they're in incomplete, they don't know how to resubmit their application, we can help them with that. If the reason that you're having them go back in and resubmit their application has something to do with like a question they missed and they can't find that question, we can help them with that. So you can always include contact ZAPP at weststaff.org for any emails during which you are asking them to do something technical on ZAPP, and you can emphasize that this email in particular is for technical support. This can just help save you a step where they reach out to you for questions and then you reach out to us. That's kind of the goal, is we want to streamline the process so that everybody essentially gets their application in as easily as possible, and the process is as easy as possible for you guys as well. So the next email you may want to send is a post-jury email. I'm sure everybody has sent this one at some point. And that is just the email that goes out to let your artists know if they are invited or not invited or waitlist. We automatically have 3 templates for this. We have an invited template, not invited template, and a waitlist template. If they are invited, we recommend including this information in here. So that is going to be the how to accept or decline their invitation. So even if you don't want to use our template, I would recommend just like taking a look at it and seeing what the steps are that we recommend, because we have like a step-by-step within it for purchasing booths on ZAPP. So if you're also offering booth purchases on ZAPP, then this will give you a bit of a step-by-step to just go ahead and send to them really easily. You'll want to add in anything that's highlighted. None of those are going to autofill, so you'll just want to include that information. So as a quick guideline for invited artists who do need to purchase a booth on ZAPP, we always want to include the deadline by which they need to do that, how to accept their invitation, how to purchase a booth. We have help videos that they can look at. They're linked here, but you can also go to our YouTube page and grab the how to purchase a booth link from there. We also have a setup for important dates. Booth setup and teardown information can be included in this email, as well as contact information and our contact information as well. I would also say that booth setup and teardown information can be sent in a separate email as well to artists who have confirmed their attendance and will indeed have purchased a booth, have submitted your artist packet, and will be attending your event. For not invited artists, the template we have for that is pretty standard. We just have like a quick blurb that is basically saying we regret to inform you that you haven't been juried. Thank you for applying. If you do have any additional things you can essentially offer them, like applications will open in 2021 on this date. We look forward to reviewing your information again, like in the future. You could definitely include that here. And then our waitlist template basically has, you're on the wait list, and here's when you'll be notified if you are pulled from the wait list to attend the event. It can also include information that would surround like additional deadlines you maybe have for your wait list. So when they would be notified that they are off the wait list, when they would have to purchase a booth by, that type of information you can include in here. For all three of these, we recommend merging in jury scores and comments. They're anonymous, but it will allow artists to see what the results of the jury were, which not only helps them feel more confident about where they placed within your event, whether they were invited, not invited, or waitlist, but also provides that extra bit of transparency for them so that they know, like, for sure that they were juried, for sure that, this is how their artwork was seen. It's just a really nice, easy thing you can do to loop your artists in on your jury process, because that's going to just pull it right from ZAPP and you don't have to do any additional work right there. So the next email, so almost every time I talk to events, while they send that initial email, say, hey, it's time to purchase your booth, they almost always need to send another one to remind some of their artists who are uninvited that the deadline is coming up. So that would be the next one to include. And you can do that just, as a version of the invite event. So you might just make this a little bit more urgent. So it's like, you have to purchase by this date, at which point we'll move on to our wait list. And here are the steps. You could also inform them that they can reject their invitation, which would allow you to move them off the list. You can emphasize that a little bit more within here so that you can get that information as soon as possible and sort of move forward with your process. The other reason you might want to send booth results differently, particularly in 2021, is because you may have artists who are rolling over from 2020. And so I have another template that I've thrown in here that's just on our event right now. And that is specifically for artists who are using a coupon code to purchase a booth or to reserve a booth space. So you may still be managing your booth process through ZAPP and managing your booth spaces through ZAPP. So even if they purchased a booth in 2020, you may want them to reserve that booth space by 2021. So I have a deadline. I have the instructions for accepting or declining the invitation again. And then I have a specific booth step by step. So the biggest thing that I changed from our main invitation email to this one was at the coupon code section, I added the coupon code. So you probably will have like a coupon code if you're having them reserve spaces, and this is how they will essentially reserve that space for free. They'll see a sign that indicates they're checking out a free item. And then I also include this blurb here at the bottom. And I think this is really important if you have any artists with coupon codes who are checking out or reserving products, purchasing anything for free. And it's just a specification that if they're having trouble entering a coupon code, they should not pay for whatever product it is that they are currently trying to reserve. They can review our how to check out with a coupon code on ZAPP guide, as well as how to check out an application on ZAPP video tutorial. In the supplemental material with this webinar that I'll be sending out afterwards, all of these links will be in there. And so you can grab these links from that document. You can grab the additional responses, additional templates from that document and put them in here. But you will have access to all of these links shortly after this webinar, and you'll be able to use them in your own communications. I also, of course, included the contact ZAPP team at, contact ZAPP@westapp.org if they have any issues. The reason this is so important beyond not wanting them to pay for anything that they shouldn't be paying for is because our refund policy actually does not allow for refunding artists for failure to use a coupon code. We do make slight exceptions, specifically in this year with so many people rolling over, but we do not have the capacity to refund everybody who does not use a coupon code. So we're really emphasizing using the help resources or contacting us. We're happy to help. We're happy to walk people through, review your settings, all of that and that stuff. We're more than happy to do that. We just don't have the capacity to offer refunds every time somebody fails to use a coupon code. So we're pushing that in our communications, and I recommend everybody push that in theirs as well, because if an artist doesn't use a coupon code, then you also have, credit card fees associated with that purchase, and that's not what we want for you or for anybody. So that is why I'm harping really hard on the coupon code caveats, which is using the resources, contacting our team, and not checking out without the coupon code because they think it isn't working. Yeah, to just always reach out first before they check out. That's what's really ideal. You can create templates within, as soon as you open this composition email. You don't have to send an email to create a template. So I have 2 in here that I've created. So we'll go into edit templates and we're going to look at the rolling over one. So when you come in to this pop-up, what you're going to essentially get is a new template where you can add your own. You'll have a title. This is internal. It's not going to affect anything artists see. You can only have 30 characters there, which is why I made all of these one word. And then you can include your subject. I didn't include in here, but just quick reminder to always include your event name within the subject line. And then you can just write your email within here. You can copy from Word, you can copy and paste. You have all of the same formatting materials that you have on the main one. And what's really cool about communication templates is that they also roll over year over year. So if you put them in for 1 year, then you'll have them next year to use again or to adapt again. So you can adapt them. I know a lot of events, what they do is they'll have, they'll put this and they'll have the name be like rolling over for 2020. And then next year, for example, maybe they'd have rolling over for 2021 if that was applicable. So I also just want to quickly go over this template that I pulled up that I created. This is specifically for rolling artists over from 2020 to 2021. And so it is very similar to the accepting applications email that you might send your initial call to artists. And so it's basically, the application is now accepting submissions. It emphasizes that as a 2020 invited artist, they are already accepted into 2021, but they will need to submit an application. And so I included the link that I have for this event and then instructions for submitting a coupon code. So I have the coupon code here. This is a PDF for how to check out a coupon code. And then this is a video tutorial for how to check out an application on ZAPP. And it does have a specific section where it talks about entering a coupon code and walks artists through that process. And then again, has this caveat that if you are having trouble as an artist, please email the ZAPP team before submitting an application. And then I have like a little note here at the end that after, the event receives the submission, they'll follow up with next steps. So if you are an event with a rolling over artist, let me go ahead and close that. So if you're an event with an artist rolling over from 2020 to 2021, then once they apply with the coupon code, you'll probably come into here and move them from received to invited or received to confirmed, depending on whether or not you're having them reserve a booth space. If you're having them reserve a booth space, you'll move them to invited, send them the instructions for reserving a booth space with the coupon code, or you'll move them to confirmed, let them know that they're good to go. If you have an artist packet or anything like that that you want to then send them a link to, you can do that. If that's your final step to confirmation, that might be your follow-up instead. One other thing I want to lightly point out about communicating to artists on ZAPP is that you may want to communicate specifically by tag. So one of the things we're having with artists who are reserving booth spaces is some artists who purchased a booth space in 2020 purchased a single booth space, and then there are artists within that event that purchased a double booth space. So what a lot of events are doing is they're making coupon codes for artists who purchased, say, a single booth, and then an artist who purchased a double booth, and applying those coupon codes just to those specific products. And so you, as artists come in, you will want to cross-reference them with their artist application or their, if you pulled the spreadsheet for your income breakdown report from last year, you want to cross-reference them to figure out what booth size they paid last year. And so, if somebody paid with a single booth, I can go in here and I can create a tag that just says single. And then when I go to send a communication, I might send 2 communications to artists who need to reserve booth spaces. So I'm going to include only tagged or flagged applicants, choose the single booth option, and then send the purchasing booths with the coupon codes to those artists who purchase a single booth. And I would add the coupon code in there for the single booth, then send the exact same email except switching out the coupon code so it was just for the double booth. So that would prevent them from purchasing or reserving the incorrect booth, because they would only receive the coupon code for the booth that they purchased. And easy if you create those templates ahead of time and then just have one template for purchasing a double booth and one template for purchasing a single booth, and then send them as your artists roll in. You'll be able to see that they used a coupon code within the payment section. So you can see right here that this application fee was $0, and it was because the 2020 artist coupon was used with 100% discount. So once I saw that as an admin, I could go in, tag them as either a single booth, double booth, and move them into invited, send them the email so that they know that they can go purchase that single booth or double booth. And then once they purchase, quote unquote purchase, once they reserve that booth, then they'll move into confirmed, and you'll know that they are like for sure coming to your event next year. The last thing I want to touch on when it comes to communicating with artists is going to be the bounce report. So every time an email is sent on ZAPP, there is a bounce report associated, a bounce report and a spam score report associated. Bounce reports essentially allow you to track whether or not your emails are being delivered to artists. We at ZAPP do run a bounce report every time, multiple times a week. So we run a bounce report probably about 3 times a week. And what that does is it just basically reviews all of the artist emails and sees if any emails have bounced off those in the past, week or so. And then we require email verification. But for additional monitoring on your end, what you can do is you can go into reports, communication bounce report, select the date and time that you sent your email, or if you just want to review all of them, you can go back to, when you first started sending emails through ZAPP. And then you can see them by date and time. Once you click update, it will run a quick report. We don't have any bounces on our test report, on our test events, because most of the applications associated are applications who work on ZAPP, are emails of people who work on ZAPP. But here's where you can kind of verify whether or not emails have been bouncing. And if they are bouncing, then you can find an alternate way to reach out to that artist. We can require email verification. So that's just an extra tool that you can use as you're communicating with artists through ZAPP. And that is our specifics on communicating with artists, kind of our deep dive and all the ways you can do that through ZAPP. Shortly after this, I'll be sending out links to additional communication templates that you can use. You can copy and paste them into ZAPP. You'll probably just need to change some of the formatting. You can add your event information in there so that it's ready to go for you guys if the ones that we send are applicable to you. And I hope to see you all soon.